John meets his new partner, and he discovers secrets inside his own memory. Kwan wants to return to Madrigal to continue her people's fight for independence, but Soren has other plans for her. Makee initiates her plan to retrieve the Madrigal object, with deadly consequences. Join us again for this review of Halo, the TV series, Episode 3, Emergence. Hello and welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Campfire Game Podcast Reviews Halo, the TV series. That is right, we're covering this week, Episode 3, Emergence, of 9 episodes. I am your host, Rich, and with me, as always, we have Matt. How's it going, Matt?
Hey, it's going good. Excited to talk Episode 3.
Yay! And along with us is the recurring guest, Heather. Welcome back again.
Hey, thanks. Good
Well,
to be back.
All right, so we're back at it again. We got Halo, the TV series, Episode 3. We're going to be covering everything, just about everything in this episode. So, because I didn't mention it last week, and someone called me out for it, spoilers ahead. You have officially been warned. We do have spoilers. We will be talking about this episode in full. So we will be letting you know that, if you don't want to get spoiled on this right now, don't listen. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that other than, spoilers ahead. So we're going to kick it off into episode 3. So this episode, again, just like last week, seemed pretty divisive amongst fans as well. Maybe not as divisive as last week's, because it was really like polar opposites. With episode 2, you had some people were basically going full doomer posting that was like, this is like the worst thing I've ever seen on TV. And some people are like, actually, this is, not too bad. Like, this is actually pretty decent for the Halo series. So I believe last week when we covered the episode, the reviews were kind of settled around, like, I think, Heather, you were around like a 6, I was a 5, and Matt, I think you were around like a 0 or a negative or something.
Yeah, do we do negative values? No, I think I was at a 3. Again, I think I've given the first and second episode a 3. So, yeah.
And where were you sitting at, Heather? Was that right? With
Yeah,
the 6?
you're right.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's break it down. Well, before we break it down, I will encourage you, the listener, to go and visit our website, campfiregamingpodcast.com. You can see a whole host of episodes, including our mainline podcast, including our book club series. This month, we're going to be playing Chicory, A Colorful Tale, so be sure to join us on that. You can join our Discord from our website. We highly encourage you to participate and give us feedback and just chat all kinds of games with us. We are typically a gaming podcast, but we figured, since it's Halo and we're big Halo fans here, even though it might not seem like it sometimes, we have to cover this TV show. It's our gamer duty to do so. While you're at it, be sure to visit our Twitter as well and follow us. That's at Camp Game Pod. If you're listening on YouTube, be sure to give us a like and subscribe. It helps us out a whole bunch. And be sure to tell your friends about us, tell your grandparents about us, all that good stuff. So let's dive into it. So we kick off with this episode. I'm trying to remember. We have a planet. I can't remember the name of the planet. Do you remember the name of the planet? It's like a garbage dump planet, or at least
Oben?
that's what. Yeah,
Waste
that's
salvage colony.
It's a salvage colony. Yeah, like it's hard to imagine. Like the funny thing about a lot of these like planets is that they make it seem like, I don't know. Maybe this is like a gripe that I have with sci-fi in general, is that they make it seem like the entire planet is just the same from that set. Like that set is the entire planet. So like we open up on this. Like you have a whole bunch of people picking through like trash and garbage. I mean, it's a salvage operation in a very, very massive scale. You have what appears to be UNSC dudes walking around with guns and stuff like that. And you see a little girl hanging out with a little boy, and they're reading a story together. And, you come to find out that it is the same story that Makee has. So it's assumed that this little girl is in fact Makee, right?
Yep.
So essentially what ends up happening is that this is kind of like this opening part of the episode is Makee's origin story and how she ends up getting into the hands of the Covenant. The Covenant end up raiding the town after Makee is running, and they're getting yelled at by the evil UNSC forces of garbage waste and management. And her boyfriend, I guess, not really boyfriend, but I guess her childhood
They
love interest gets brutally beaten to death by the waste like this waste management must be like run by Tony Soprano or something, because they just like beat the crap out of him and then killed him. So
yeah, they aren't boyfriend and girlfriend yet. They didn't actually kiss, right? They need to kiss for that to be official, right?
that's
So
true.
this was
That's
just
It
a
true.
has
guy.
to be on. It has to be on Facebook, actually, Matt.
Ooh, do you think they had Facebook in
Right.
500
It's called
years?
Meta now.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
called Meta. It has to be official on Meta.
Do you think
Yeah.
it's going to be meta still in 500 years? But yeah, no, I imagine this open place is just one big giant trash planet, like you said. So
Right. Yeah, I was just immediately thought of like, is the whole planet like this, or is this just just this particular area just happens to be the offending part?
yeah, no, I kind of get you with that with sci-fi, but yeah, no, as far as like the opening here, it was interesting, I guess. Interesting to see a bunch of one kid get murdered and one start to get no, probably almost murdered if the
Yeah.
elites didn't show up, the nice friendly elites,
Right.
cute and cuddly.
And that's like, well, what's weird about it is that it like there was only two. At least that's all that we saw. Like it wasn't like a giant Covenant army drops onto the planet or anything like that. Is that we see that it's just two elites that are just kind of walking through a bunch of stuff. It doesn't look like they're even killing anybody. At
Hmm.
least that not that we could tell.
Yeah.
Um, and then they hold up this magic staff toward at Makee, and they're like, "Yep, this is the one that we want." And that's kind of like the soft intro to the episode.
And how she got captured, like you said, her origin story as far as getting picked up by him. But yeah, no, I think it's one of the odd things with this show so far is like, again, coming from the game side, like the Covenant are out there to destroy the UNSC. Here it's just like, hey, couple raiding parties here and there to do, get a relic or get a little girl or like,
Right.
just doesn't seem as like,
They kind of have like their own agenda. Like they're not really fighting. It doesn't really seem like they're really fighting a war. It's more like they just are kind of there.
yeah.
Yeah. And I
Seems
think
like
that's
there's more fighting within the UNSC than there is between the Covenant.
right. And we get into, we get pretty deep into like the I guess you could call it the politics of the UNSC and what is going on between, behind the scenes between, Halsey, Parangoski, Miranda Keys, and etc. Right? Like you have all of these different competing elements within the UNSC who it's not super clear what all of their motivations are to like be underhanded, just that they are underhanded. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, with the exception of probably Dr. Halsey, she's the only one that's truly motivated to do something, while everyone else is kind of like existing to kind of sideline Dr. Halsey's work because they think it's unethical. But I mean, Parangoski doesn't seem like she's like the most ethically sound person, and Miranda Keys is kind of like trying to be ethical, but now she's trying to be kind of underhanded too. And once we break from the intro of the episode, we kind of get into the next set of scenes where we start exploring more of this. Is that you see Dr. Halsey is trying to work with John after they, I guess you could say, recaptured him from last episode. She's trying to work with him to kind of unlock some more of these memories, and we get some insight as to how Cortana is being, kind of put together, and we get to see the wonderful Stonks clone of Dr. Halsey. And
Yeah.
I loved that meme, by the way. That was so funny. Like I laughed my ass off when I saw that.
I did too. God, like I love getting on to the Halo subreddit like after an episode airs because there's always some gold on there as far as the memes. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, it was I mean, we finally get introduced to what I guess was she Cortana before she came Cortana before they pulled her brains out.
Well, I mean, from the sounds of it, it sounds like the program Cortana kind of existed, but the AI really didn't become fully formed until they vaporized the clone's brain.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they build up this clone, um, and then immediately put the clone on an operating table and effectively, I guess, suck the brain out of her. That's what seems to be implied. Does
Something,
that sound?
yeah.
Does that
It's
sound right?
kind of like getting like her brain essence, if you will. Like they're essentially like digitizing her brain because that's Halsey's clone, right?
Yeah.
And so she's trying to basically put her brain inside, Master Chief's helmet. So
Hmm.
it's like essentially digitizing it.
Yeah, yeah, I guess it's kind of, we never really know, but yeah, that's probably a good explanation of it because I mean that they only just stick a small little needle into her eye. I mean, maybe that has like some crazy suction, but
Yeah, I didn't get it, but
it was probably a way to connect to the physical form and, like you said, digitize it, into whatever their AI. So
Right. So, when we finally get that, I mean, well, first off, we have like the super creepy doctor in this scene who's just like it's kind of weird cuz like they're putting the clone onto the table to get the brain sucked out, and this like the other doctor is just kind of, which is so weird, is that like she only has one lab assistant in this.
yeah,
Like this is supposedly such a super secret project that she only has like one lab assistant. She doesn't have like a whole like host of like a staff or anything like that. But this one lab assistant is just kind of like giving her the super creepy eyes. I think he was like going in for a kiss on the dying clone there or something like that. He's just kind of like
oh, dude,
yeah.
he straight up like takes her panties from the locker rooms and just gives those a sniff. Like he is creepy AF.
Like this kind of surprised me, which was obviously their point, but like they seem to be starting these weird, at least to me, sometimes these little smaller. I know we have our B plots. I don't know. Is there such a? I don't know. I don't know. The silver screen. Is there something like a C plot? I don't know. Like it was just like, here's a nobody who had some screen time, just kind of to be that random assistant. And now in this episode, we get that feeling that he's a creep and B, he's in love with Halsey, and it was just like where did that come from? Like why did we
yeah,
need that?
Well, and on top of that, why do we care?
Exactly.
I
yeah.
have zero rapport with this character. He is literally the guy that stands in the back and goes, "Okay."
Okay. Yeah, he doesn't really have any
Yeah.
lines. There's nothing really intriguing about him until he did something really, really creepy, and
I
then it's
wouldn't even
just,
call that intriguing. That just
well,
makes
it's
me
just
want to see less of him.
it went from he was basically a cardboard cutout of a you know of a scientist, and now they gave him a little bit of character. It's creepy character, but they gave him a little bit of character, but then that's it. Like that's really all he does the entire episode, and yeah, there's not a whole lot of dialogue from him. He just he just like, yeah, just goes in, kind of sniffs the clone, and it's just like, all right.
Yeah. It was just it was so weird. I could tell in the writing room they're like episode 3, like, oh, we got to give this guy a character, and some dude in the back's like, let's make him rapey. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
that works.
that sounds like a good idea. Whatever. I mean,
Yeah. Anyways,
it's hilarious. So moving on from that, I mean, this is where we start to get Cortana finally fleshed out, right? Like this is the episode where we get to see Cortana in action, in the fully digitized form. The
hmm
actress, I can't remember who the actress is that plays her, like the physical part of Cortana, but it is voiced by Jen Taylor, which is great because, I mean, like, if I were to have just closed my eyes, right, and just not paid attention to the show, I'd be like, holy shit, like this is Halo now.
yep.
Like this is like the first moment that I've actually felt like this show feels like Halo now, is when Jen Taylor is speaking.
It-
And then you
it-
open your eyes
And then
and
I
you
open
realize
my
you're
eyes.
watching
you're like,
Godzilla.
what is this?
Right.
And this goes back to, I'm going to make this third episode in a row. This point is, it's insane how much music and sound effects, or in this case, voice acting, can make this feel so much more like Halo. And
Mm-hmm.
I guess my points in the past were the lack of it, right? And here it was like, yeah, I got that calming feeling. I was like, Cortana's here. She's got my back. We're gonna get shit done. Let's go. And it just, again, goes to show that they should be using a little bit more from the game, at least if they want to please me a little more. But
Right.
I'm not the broader audience they're looking for.
Right,
So
and I mean, it does kind of lend itself that it's like, at the end of the day, I do really wish that they would have maybe taken a lot more inspiration from the game, because then you could see what sort of moments we're kind of looking for. Like there is a sort of like feeling that you get from, the different, like the soundtrack with what's happening on screen, with what the player is doing, with, all of the different voices and things like that that are happening all at the same time. You kind of get that essence of what Halo kind of feels
hmm
like. Kind of wish they would have played more of the games to capture a lot of that, because yeah, like as soon as Cortana spawns in, she says that line, when the game is over, the king and the pawn go back in the same box.
Yep.
And so that was just like, wow, like that was really like, that was a little bit, I was like, whoa, I felt like that was some Halo right there. Like,
I believe that was straight out of the Fall of Reach book.
I
Don't
think
quote me
so.
on that. At least one of the books, I should say.
It sounds
Uh,
really familiar, but
yeah,
I haven't really read a lot of the books. So,
yeah. But yeah, again, don't quote me. I think it was Fall of Reach, but I'm pretty sure that was like her first line. Whenever showed up in whichever book it was.
which I mean,
But
you could definitely tell that like what the showrunners seem to be really focusing on. I mean, that's probably because that's a lot of what they had for canon. If they didn't take from the games, is that they really do try and bring a lot of the detail out of the books and try to put it on screen. Unfortunately for me, I didn't read a lot of the books, so I don't get a lot of that context, which is kind of a bummer. Um, if I played the games, so that's kind of what I'm looking for in a Halo TV series.
hmm
But it was really cool to hear Jen Taylor, voice that line, and you just think, wow, like, okay, yeah, that's Cortana. Like, I'm sold. That that
yep.
is that is exactly Cortana.
That's any time she talked, I felt like again felt good. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
this is nice.
Yep.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks for being awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad that Jen Taylor, like, I'm glad that they decided to go with Jen Taylor to voice this, because yes, like without it, it would have been way too weird. And that's kind of how I feel about with what they're doing with Master Chief in general. Is that like,
hmm
Master Chief, he's going through this experiment now with Cortana. He gets introduced to Cortana. He's very apprehensive. He's doing this whole like really hyper emotional thing again, where he's like being really stubborn, saying like, no, I don't need an AI. I don't want an AI. Okay, fine,
hmm
I'll take the AI. Whatever. He's being
Yeah.
like super apprehensive towards it. But they go and go through this artifact and have him touch it while with Cortana reading through all of like his systems, and reading his brain and all that, and getting all of like as much information as she can while he's hanging on to this Forerunner artifact. He gets a bunch of memories of the same stuff we've been seeing, like parents, dog. He gets a little bit deeper, where he gets like a drawing of the same, like a similar Forerunner artifact, and he gets an idea of where another Forerunner artifact might be. So, from there, we kind of have an idea on what is going to happen next, as far as what they are going to be planning on doing. Dr. Halsey's basically trying at this point to kind of play two sides, because she realizes that, yeah, while this is good information to get more of these Forerunner artifacts, she's trying to play the role of like, she wants to let John kind of do his thing, but at the same time she's skeptical about having him have like be emotional and be um, you know observing these sorts of things and getting the truth out of what his memories are.
hmm I I'm gonna kind of step back a little bit to kind of with like you had mentioned about John and Cortana starting to work together. Uh, I guess I'm again. It's kind of I'm going to be a broken record on this stuff, but like I'm not particularly fond about how Cortana and John's relationship started. They're both at odds
Hmm.
initially to start, like right from the get go, and then you see it throughout the episode a few times where Cortana's basically spying on John to Halsey, and it's just kind of a weird dynamic. Again, it kind of goes against like, well, that's not Halo. Like they were a team, and they were literally from the start a team. When they were introduced in the books, and there was none of this like that they introduced where like Cortana is unhappy initially because she can't have 100% control of John. Apparently, she can control humans, I guess, if given 100%. And then
Hmm.
obviously John's not happy having something in her head, as we see and some scenes a little later on. So I was just curious, someone who didn't kind of get that backstory from the books, like how does that relationship start between Cortana and John kind of feel to you, Heather?
Me not having the book context, I mean, it still seemed a little weird. It seemed invented. I mean, I didn't remember any sort of like fighting between them in the games.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I never finished all the games. But still, like I kind of like looked at that and I was, for lack of a better term, I was confused. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know why he's so defiant against there. And then I also thought it was weird that Cortana's now Big Brother,
Yeah.
when like Cortana in the games is built up to be like the thing he can trust, right? The thing he trusts
Yeah.
unequivocally. So like to see him not want her around and she has to build this trust and stuff like that, like if it feels invented. And I was trying to figure out, so like I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, if I were to think about, like, let's pretend that we don't know what happens in the book, like, how would I set up this interaction? Because I
Mm-hmm.
would think that a normal human being would probably be a little weirded out by, a you know, a Cortana in their head.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'd be like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Yeah. It was just an odd. Again, I guess too. You've at least played 1 through 3, right? And they were
Yes.
essentially to kind of use the ongoing joke. Cortana is uh, John Halo's girlfriend, right? So they were like this
Right.
crazy power couple,
Mm-hmm.
that were just saving the world. They got each other's back. They were there. So again, yeah, to me, it was just kind of a weird introduction. It felt odd, and as much as the calming voice of Jen Taylor, helped smooth it over, it was just rough. And I'm obviously the show is going to be probably about them learning to trust each other, but like, why couldn't it be not that learning to trust each other, but more, how do we work together to obviously you got an AI and a human, like how do we work together to become this amazing power couple? But
I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
yeah,
I'm
so that
calling it now. They're setting it up for a big betrayal plot so that he can get moody again. Like it just reeks of invented drama that they're starting to set up,
yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
not a fan.
Yeah, it
I
definitely
really am not.
Yeah, it definitely feels like they're trying to force drama between the two of them, which is really kind of sad. And it just makes me go back to my original point that, like, they really should have probably looked more at the games as source material, not so much that, you have to try and emulate that experience, but you're really missing out on a lot of key information about that, like, specifically between, you know, Master Chief and Cortana's relationship, even from the very beginning. Like, they had a very like buddy buddy relationship kind
Hmm.
of thing going from the second he wakes out of cryo. She's just like, "Oh, did you sleep well?" She's like, they kind of like give each other shit back and forth too, like they're best friends kind of a thing. And
Yeah.
that's always something that's been prevalent throughout all the games, all the way up until Halo 5. But who get that didn't happen, right? Like that's not a thing.
Hmm.
But like that's where I think like they really missed something by deliberately trying to avoid using the games as source material for this
Hmm.
show. I don't know.
Yeah, this would have been a good spot to go, okay, like, yeah, we can have that struggle of them figuring out how to work with each other, which there was in the books, but like this whole like at odds, this just John not wanting it all, and Cortana wanting to take over 100% and report everything back to Halsey is just,
Hmm. And
yeah.
he's like, it gets really dramatic when he's talking with Silver Team again, and he's telling them, "Hey, by the way, I'm reporting back to duty. It is what it is. You guys." And the Silver Team is basically like, "Yep, John, we got your back." And so they're
Which
like, "Cool." And then Cortana shows up, introduces herself, and then you get just this really awkward dialogue. Like, it's
it was a
super
yeah.
awkward.
Yeah, everybody knows that John was supposed to say Xbox off. Sorry, Heather, I stole your joke.
It's all right.
Um, Yeah, no, that was a weird interaction. Like, just in general, even just Silver Team and John before Cortana showed up. It's just like, we got your back. We trained since kids. And then what's her name? Oh, I wrote it down here. The blonde Kai. Yeah, Kai is just. There's now a third. This is another one of those things. Third episode in a row. They've had some kind of weird like pause on her, or she gives
Yeah.
a weird look, or says something a little off that makes me think, oh boy, we're gonna start some little C plot here of some bullshit that she's gonna turn, or she's gonna start reporting back, or some BS like that.
Right. And the reason that we, kind of go into that sort of C plot thing is that there's this whole scene with Master Chief and Cortana having an interaction where Master Chief is trying to take the pellet out of his back. He's trying to take that inhibitor, which I guess is supposed to inhibit his emotions or something, because he seems pretty damn emotional throughout a lot of this show already. So I
Yeah,
don't.
it's defective
right?
anyway.
Yeah. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's working too well, so I guess take it out. But he's
Yeah.
trying to take it out. Immediately, Cortana basically rats him out to Halsey saying, yeah, by the way, he's trying to take out his chip. And she's like, no. Help him out. Make him trust you. And it's like, wow, like this seems like, I know that Halsey's kind of underhanded and all that, but it's just like, I don't like the direction that the show is kind of taking this, where it seems like Cortana is not really there for Chief. She's there for Halsey before Chief, which
Yeah.
it seems really weird. It just seems off to me, because they are supposed to be like effectively friends, right? Like the digital assistant is supposed to be friends, because the augmentation process of Master Chief is, kind of, it messes with them socially. Like it screws their social skills, because they're, indoctrinated into UNSC sort of methodology and all that. They're, that they are a soldier machine kind of a thing. So they
Mhm.
don't have social skills. So they get paired with an AI. So he gets paired with an AI to get social skills effectively, right?
Yeah.
So there's that, but I mean they kind of built up this thing in the show saying that, like, hey, we're actually friends, me and the other Spartans, we're all friends, except for they, like you were saying, going back to that like weird pause and stuff like that. It seems like when Cortana entered, they're all of a sudden, like, before they were steadfast, and in that
Mhm.
moment, that awkward exchange, they have this look like they can't trust him anymore, because he's got a tattletale in his head.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Not only
And
that, but it was really odd, because it was like, it's like the writers were trying to make that scene funny by it being kind of an awkward exchange, but it just
really,
like,
you got funny out of that?
my guess is that's what they were trying to do, but it wasn't funny.
It
And it
fell
felt
flat.
really flat. Yeah. It was a joke that fell really flat. Like they were trying to make it seem really awkward. Like, yeah, Halsey's AI. It's new.
Yeah.
It's a new AI.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this
That
isn't
was
funny.
rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not
But,
sure
I
how
mean-
to feel right now.
But it's funny though that you bring up that, though, like the AI is supposed to be his friend, and then the Spartans are supposed to be his friend, and now nobody can trust anybody. Like, there's your friends are not friends, is what the show is teaching me.
Mhm.
Right. They really missed out on a like they're trying to make like a Halo soap opera, which is kind of shitty, I guess. Like it's one thing I'm not really looking forward to this show, is that they're building up all this drama where, yeah, like, while he's taking out this pellet, you get the big reveal of Master Chief's ass, right? I don't know if that's supposed to be like, oh, it's Master Chief without his armor, both physically and emotionally. He's letting his guard down to trust an AI and blah 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 blah.
You didn't like that scene?
Spoiler alert. Kai
All I had was
recognizes Master Chief's butt, and then realizes that's her brother. That's it. New plot.
oh,
Wow, the plot thickens.
I just
But-
liked the first episode, helmet off. Second episode, armor off. Third episode, he's
Everything
butt ass
off.
naked.
Yeah, everything is off. Yep, he's jamming
What
a knife
comes
into
next?
his back.
What is it? What is he gonna take off next?
Yeah, I don't.
Like they should have at least stretched that out the entire season, so we could have been episode to episode. What's coming off next, right?
Right.
But
That
nope,
could have
we're
been kind of funny.
Like a game of strip poker or something like
Yeah.
that. Every time that
Strip
he
chief.
gets tattled, every time he gets tattled on, he has to remove a piece of something.
yeah.
I just like referring to him now as Master Cheeks from now on.
Yeah, Master Cheeks.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So that's the grand reveal out of this episode is that you get to see Master Chief's butt.
the way you shake it, I can't believe it. I ain't never seen an ass like that. That's all that was going through my mind.
All right,
Oh.
so
Back
Yeah,
to the topic.
but yeah, so you get to see Kai is scoping out Master Chief's butt while he's taking out the inhibitor pellet,
yeah,
and so she's looking like she's looking real sussy right over there, hiding in the corner, hiding in the shadows, which again is like I don't know what sort of tension they're trying to build here, but it's like it feels like everyone in the show just doesn't want to work together.
mm-hmm.
Maybe it's just a metaphor for the show. The show is just a metaphor for itself, is that nobody wanted to work together, nobody can cooperate, everybody fights all the time, and then it ends up producing just a really ridiculous, like sort of half-ass put together show.
Something. It was just, but yeah, I mean, like that's the thing is you mentioned it a few minutes ago was like they're just trying to force a lot of this drama where like for me and probably a lot of other people and probably even their broader audience, we like to me I'd rather care like what's going on with the Covenant War, what is this weird artifact, like let's focus on those things instead of like Kai looking at Chief's ass and saying, well, we trust you, but oh, does she really? Or creepy rapey doctor, like none of that like matters. Like even the stuff they're trying to do with Miranda is boring as shit. Like we can't assume it in this universe that humanity is on the edge of extinction,
Right, because we've never really because they get
They
their get out of bullshit free card it's the silver timeline.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
no, they kind of said that, right? Like when last week we had an episode with the guy who was supposed to be a jackal. And he was talking about how the whole reason that they're looking for this artifact, right, is because it's a weapon to end all of mankind. So we do have some idea of like a looming doom, if you will. Like if we don't beat them to that race, but we're just kind of filling time with like ancillary nonsense that really doesn't need to be. That kind of just reeks of I don't know what to do, but I really only have enough for 3 episodes, so
right. The stakes
side
don't,
plots.
Yeah, I mean, like the stakes don't feel very high when all we're really focusing is really just deconstructing Master Chief as a person. We're so focused on, just breaking down him as a person that we really can't, like, there's no visibility on this as an existential threat of any kind. It doesn't really feel like there's any stakes going on because Master Chief takes out his pellet. He's wandering about town. He's watching people play goofy, like, sand bowling. He's watching, like, a pair of stringed instruments not playing the Halo theme song. And, he's throwing beach balls over to some bros over in the corner. Like,
he's watching the music play and nobody's yelling at him to sit down. And here's some dude that's like almost 7 feet tall, right?
So here's the other thing too, right? He decides he's gonna go get the other artifact, right?
Yeah,
like he's like, oh yeah, I know where it is. He identifies where it is. Like he realizes like it's on where he grew up and stuff like that. And so he's gonna go there. And Halsey's like, nope, no, you're not. And it's like, wait, what? And then they decide, okay, well, I guess you can go, but I'm going with you.
Yeah, just kidding. We are going to go there.
And so it doesn't seem like they feel it's urgent either, even though he literally, like Master Chief literally told, I would assume that he literally told them that the Covenant is using it as for a weapon, right? Like they know the Covenant wants it for a weapon.
Right.
And so they're not in the slightest bit, like, they don't have any sort of like need to hurry up on this.
Yeah, we saw you like he was saying was there's this other piece on this other planet, and they're like, no, it's okay, we'll just leave it there. Like, who cares? Let's deconstruct you. How are you feeling?
So not only is there another piece that you're in a race to go get, which clearly the Covenant is ready to go get it because they left um they're the one.
Blessed one.
I
Yep.
can't think of what her name is all
Yep,
of a sudden.
Makee.
Makee, thank you. Yeah, they let Makee go. Like, she talked them into letting him go, and she does some pretty badass things. And then, so she's clearly on the hunt for it. She just doesn't know where to go look. They know where it is, have the leg up, and say, nah. In fact, we're going to fund 2 teams to go study it, even though we know that, it's a
Yes.
weapon and that there's another piece and all this stuff. But we're going to have 2 teams study this
Yeah.
while we
And so,
wait for the other guys to catch up.
and so there's your C. Yeah, that's actually what your C plot is there, Matt, is that you have Miranda Keyes starting up her, if Halsey's team A, she's team 1. So
Mm-hmm.
she's got to have
Or the mongooses.
yeah, she's the fighting mongooses of the UNSC. So they're
Yeah.
gonna conduct their own research so that they can do stuff too. And it's like, oh my god, why
Again,
are you
why do
being
we-
such a baby about this?
Why do we need this storyline of them fighting each other?
Mhm.
It's just
It's just so unnecessary.
it's just so frustrating.
But diving
I-
back slightly to what Heather said, there is a whole nother side to this that we haven't really talked about yet,
Yep.
and that's the incredibly inept UNSC forces on board the Gladius.
That's putting it nicely.
Yes. So the Gladius is another like a small cruiser type ship, and it comes across a Covenant. I think it's like it's not a Seraph. It's a
It's one of their
like big
smaller.
yeah.
Smaller. It's not one of their massive. Yeah, I'm trying to remember what that ship is. But
Anyway,
it's
there's
like
a big
the one
cruiser.
from Reach.
Yeah, there's a big cruiser that comes, and then it you hear Makee on the radios, basically saying, "Help me, all the Covenant have left, and I'm the only one on board. You must help me, please.
The engine's turned off, and they
The-
just left because they didn't
Yeah.
know how to turn it on.
The ship's fallen, and it can't get up." And so they decide, okay, well, we're going to send a pod over to you, and we're going to get you. And they send a pod out. Oh, it's just kind of neat. Like, they have the little pod that's the little drop pod from
Halo
the
CE.
the Halo games, which is kind of cool. That was nice to see. But
Yep.
then, they bring her back. They don't do any scans. They don't do anything to really prepare for this. They have a whole crew full of guns just aiming at Makee as she's kind of walking in, and she's like, "Oh, okay, I guess attack!" And then the hunter worms come out, and they kind of flood the room and start killing everybody, and all the Marines are shooting their battle rifles over at This is the only action in the entire episode, by the way.
Oh, we got a little more action later.
No, we don't.
Quan's haircut.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, no, so the worms attack, and this was kind of one of the cooler scenes. Unfortunately, we've seen a majority of it in trailers.
We
and
saw
stuff.
this in the trailer, yeah.
But again, it's just another one of those things where it just made me shake my head because again, you have all I don't know, the room maybe had 20 Marines in it, right?
Mhm.
And then they come out, and obviously they're quick and they're taking down probably the first couple, and they open fire. Nobody thinks of shooting at her.
Nope.
And then when
Yeah,
somebody
nobody.
does shoot at her,
They miss. He misses.
yeah, not quite point blank because he did start stepping backwards as the hunter worms come. But you also see Makee taking a few steps forward, and he takes a shot at her, and whatever, and then he
Mhm.
gets to the next room and he doesn't have a weapon at all, and it's like what the hell is going? Again, it's that convenient writing. Well,
Right.
he doesn't have it now, so that the hunter worms can get him.
Yeah. And so, they take over the entire ship. You hear him activate the Cole protocol, which is cool. That's kind of a neat
Yep.
little throwback to, they mention that in the games. They mention that in the books. You kind of know what that is.
Which it kind of goes, again, they with that, they tease a little bit there is that impending, doom, the fact that the humans are so outnumbered, but again, it's not kind of shown in the show. That was the whole idea of the Cole protocol.
Right.
We couldn't let any UNSC ship get captured because we didn't want them to learn the location of Reach and Earth.
Right.
Well, why does that matter now when it's just again, in the show, I don't get the feeling that, again, it's just a basic war, just aliens versus humans. They're just kind of fighting, right? Nobody's really winning. It doesn't seem like nobody seems more powerful than the other,
Right.
whatever. Yeah, I think the only time it actually was the start of this scene where I kind of got a little bit of a feeling for the Covenant potentially being more powerful, and I'm not talking about the Hunter worms, is the size of the ships when you first see the Covenant cruiser or whatever come out of hyperspace or slip space, right?
Right, right,
It's like, okay, this is much bigger than the UNSC ship. But again, it just feels off, you know.
right.
So some of the time, sometimes these little callbacks kind of to me fall flat. It's like, oh, that was cool. I get the idea behind it, but why?
Yeah.
Mm.
And then you get the most interesting part of the entire episode. It's Makee with her special weapon. You have now I don't know why they decided to have this or what the whole purpose of this was, but you see Makee, she stands over, she's got this big smug look on her face. She's trying to talk to the captain of the ship, and he's like, "Nope, you ain't getting nothing off this ship." And she's like, "Okay." And then she kills him by stabbing his eye with her energy sword fingernail.
Yeah.
I don't know where the hell this came from. This isn't a book thing, is it? Do people have energy sword Wolverine fingernails?
This one got. I'm lost. I know I'm a couple books behind, but no, I don't think this was ever a thing.
Okay, because it's just like you just see like she's bzzzt, and then she's like looking at a blue light coming out of her fingernail. She's like ha ha ha, and I'm just like like what the hell did that come from? Like what
It's
is
it's the
that?
it's the same idiot in the back of the writing room. Like, how do we have her killed? Because she doesn't have a weapon. She's got an energy sword in her finger, and they're like, shit, yeah, let's do
All
it.
right, yeah, that's Halo right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just so ridiculous. So then, like, yeah, like I mean, fun, she doesn't get anything off the ship. So then she just decides,
Well,
okay, cool, let's go to Madrigal. I just think it's weird that she says that all, yeah, like, do they not have the ability, like maybe I'm just thinking too much like Star Trek or something, but like, they don't have the ability to scan for life forms on other ships or anything like that, or,
I don't
they
know.
can't detect like
I thought they
Covenant
did.
presence because like,
I thought they did though. I thought they did a scan and they said that they couldn't find anything on there. Because that's what they were talking about. Like there was like that one person and they weren't finding much in the way of like life forms on the ship.
okay, so then that's weird because yeah, she contacts somebody on that ship. Like, cause she, like, I don't know if it's on that cruiser specifically, but she contacts somebody from the Gladius to, she's talking to the Covenant
Hmm.
over the radio because the UNSC has a thing where they, they intercept part of the transmission, and so they're listening in on part of the conversation. It's scrambled, but she's
Yeah.
talking to somebody. So are they on that capital ship, or did another ship just kind of come out of nowhere, or like who the hell is she talking to?
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
the other thing that kind of bugs me too is this is another one of those situations where we're just supposed to accept her skill and her talent in these things. Like the what we know about Makee is she knows how to read books and she can talk Covenant. I don't know. I can't even say Sangheili because who knows what it is, right? She could talk, right? There's nothing that you ever like. She gets on that ship and she knows her way around. She knows all the computer systems. She's trying to hack it, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
where did any of this skill come from? There wasn't even like a little hint anywhere, right? This goes back to that kind of what was it, that Ray comparison I made a couple episodes, right? You get that introduction to this character and you see things. Okay, she's good at climbing things and scavenger and fighting, so you get an idea. Okay, she's got some of these skills. Again, Makee was like, where the hell did this come from?
Yeah.
She just got on the ship. She was able to hack into these computers. She knows her way around all the mechanics and getting into panels and doing whatever the hell she was doing.
Right.
And again, it's like, and then obviously, if they scanned the ship and they didn't find anything, like, what the hell?
Right.
I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm just ignorant, but I saw it as they were leading her back. Like they were falling back to portions of the ship and they fell back to like where the communications section was of the ship, right? Like cuz that's effectively where the captain of the ship, I guess if you will, that's where he dies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is
Yeah,
in
on the
that
bridge.
room. And then I didn't think that like in my brain when I saw this, I saw that she like essentially like in my brain she typed in what they told her to and they had an encrypted line like the hacking genius is still over, with the rest of the Covenant. She just opens up a channel and then they talk.
It's probably pointy finger elite, bro.
Probably.
I
But
love that.
I mean, like in my brain though, like that's how I saw it,
Yeah.
even though they didn't actually like say any of that stuff. But like maybe that was just my willing suspension of disbelief, was just to think of like, okay, well, how does this make sense? Oh, well, it makes sense because it would make sense that if they are an advanced alien race, right, they know how to encrypt their line, if you will, and so that only they can talk to each other. And then my thought is like they would just tell her, listen up, basically, turn your walkie-talkie to channel 3 and we'll do the rest.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It just seemed like I don't know who she was talking to, because if they were on board, you would have thought that they would have got picked up on the scan or something like that. Or likewise, you thought they would have scanned the pod as it was coming over, and they would have suspected, or they would have found, a bunch of alien worm life forms sitting on the thing. Again, you would have thought that the alien worms would have been on the the capital ship if they would have scanned that too.
I don't know. I don't want to make excuses, but like, maybe they don't know about the hunter worms yet in this timeline. Like they haven't seen a hunter yet. I don't know.
That's whatever. Yeah. That's a stretch.
But my question more to about this is so you talk about how like there wasn't anybody on the ship. Like I don't know if that person was on the ship. They don't really tell you where this person is from, but like when I was like explaining like turn your walkie-talkie to, channel 3 kind of a thing, I'm thinking they're beaming straight back up, like back to like where the prophets are and all that. Like that was in my brain, but I don't know. That's theorizing on what it could be.
Maybe
they
feel
don't
like
do
we're
a whole
trying
lot
to
of
like
explanations.
We're really trying to explain this, but it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and to me, the camera work when she's talking back to whoever, she's looking out the front of the bridge. She's got the Covenant ship in front of her. To me, it was just a really a ruse that the UNSC fell for, a really shitty one.
Yeah, so they're really really incompetent. But I mean, to be fair, like one of the coolest things about that whole scene was just being able to see the inside of like a like a UNSC cruiser or something like that. Like just being able to see the bridge of a ship, very like Star Trek style, but Halo. Like I thought that was kind of cool. I'd love to see more of that stuff.
I mean, hell, I'd like to see the inside of a Covenant ship too.
Oh yeah, like just see like a big ass space battle. That'd be kind of cool.
Like do one of those cheesy like split screen things where she's on one side talking and he's on the other.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah,
I'm down.
I was happy the like Golo, the hunter worms, like they got their time to shine. A little bit of, I don't know. Hey, a lot of people don't know hunters are made up of a colony of worms. They just think they're these big badass bros, right? So it was kind of cool to me seeing.
You see worms. the foot formed earlier in the episode, and it's like in the armor and all that.
And then you get all the little ones, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, with all this happening, meanwhile, back at Reach, John is sitting there with Cortana. He's sitting at a little computer and he's Googling where to find, how do I find Forerunner artifact? And he finds a good planet to go to. And that's when, he and Halsey have that conversation that they need to go to this planet because that's the planet that he's seen. So we do get a little bit of, we're starting to see the little bits of Master Chief and Cortana working together to solve problems, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And they find that they have to go to a planet. I don't remember what the planet was called, but it had a cool, like, ice ring around it or something like that. And, he's...
Yeah, it was like some explorer colony experimental settlement or something.
Yep, that got wiped out in a plague.
Yeah.
Yep. But he has to find... towards the end of the episode, we basically have that Master Chief is going to go there with Dr. Halsey to try and find this Forerunner artifact. And that's, towards the end of the episode. I mean, I guess this isn't the end of the episode. I guess we should talk about the B plot, which completely ruined the entire episode for me. Okay, it didn't ruin the whole thing, but I remember this part of the episode came up and I was just like, oh, come on. I don't care. And that's the Kwan part.
Yeah.
Everyone's favorite new character, Kwan.
I don't know whose favorite character
Yeah.
is Kwan, but
The only thing
I
I'm going to say about this is that, yeah, Kwan wants to go back to Madrigal, and she convinces Soren to take her back to Madrigal because he wants money.
Yeah, apparently, as a poor rebel who can't afford to leave Magical, so as soon as she can, she's gonna leave. Don't worry, her
yeah,
family's got money, and
I want to
she'll
go
pay him.
back.
Yeah,
I
I want
want
to
to
go
go
back and
back.
fight. Yeah, I gotta, it's for the resistance, and, my
It's been
people on Madrigal are getting killed, and yada, yada, yada. And it's like, who
yeah, this
cares?
this
They
whole
don't even
rubble.
care. That's why it's conflicting. That's
Yeah,
why she, doesn't care about the resistance, and then cares about the resistance, and they don't have a lot, but actually know her family has lots of money and all of this,
it's
and it's
just
like,
it's like what do we need her to be this episode, or what do we need this plot to be? Okay, we need she's rich. That's why she wants to go back, right? She's Leia, and she's telling Han Solo, "Take me back. You'll get a lot of money, and then
Which we
we'll
don't.
go
Yeah,
back."
it's
you
total
know,
bullshit.
but it's just like these characters are flip flopping from episodes. First episode she's getting high and I can't wait to get off this planet, and in this episode she's like, "Well, I don't want to just sit around and get high, and I want to go back to Madrigal." Soren's like, "Hey, I'll do anything for John because he's my bro. We don't know why, but he's my bro." And
Yeah,
then
even
this
though he
episode he's
treated
like,
me terribly.
yeah, and then this episode's like he's like talks to Kwan like, you do the wrong thing, I'm gonna kill you. Which, I mean, again, hopefully that would end that B plot if that happened, but we all know it's not going to. It's weird.
the other thing though is we saw Kwan Ha fight. She didn't.
Yeah,
She straight up got scared
she
and hid.
ran, and then she
And then when
ran,
yep.
and then she ran, and then she climbed, and then ran,
And
and
then the
then
elite found her, and her dad tried to scream at it to scare it off of her, and he kills her or kills him, and then the Spartan saves her.
yep, yeah. So her fighting skill is she has none.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, she's a true rebel leader right there.
It
Yeah.
She's
just
just
it
So
gonna
yeah, like I said, this was the part of the episode that just sucked all the air out of the room. Like that was truly like, you just opened the door to space and all the fun shot out with it. It was just like
and I
any interest that I had in the episode went right out the window when they brought back this plot because yeah, it's just like I just don't care. Like I would rather they just skip all this part and just
mhm.
go right back to, Master Chief doing stuff with Cortana now cuz that's truly what the focus of the whole show should be. I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, I feel like if they really wanted to go this route, yeah, I mean, I feel like what they should have done is set up this season to show why the Master Chief is a incredible soldier. Like that's what they should have. Like this seems like season 2 stuff that we're getting into right now. Like so sort of like, okay, we've established that he is like a hardcore mega soldier that, is he doesn't feel a lot of pain or
Mhm.
he doesn't feel emotions and things like that, and he's just good at one thing, following orders, and or he's good at two things, following orders and killing aliens, or I
Yeah.
guess insurgents. But like we don't see hardly any of that unless you count like the first 10 minutes or so of the first episode, and he's done nothing since then. Like he's done no combat since then. We hardly know how good of a soldier or a tactician or anything that this guy
Mhm.
actually is. It's just all been told to us.
well, I mean, none of that's true from what they've showed us, right? Like he doesn't follow orders like a good boy, and his fight scene, although like I thought it should have been cool, like they really they didn't he didn't really do a whole lot in his fight scene, if I'm
No,
being honest.
yeah, he really didn't. Like he did a little bit of gunplay and all that, and he did some, I guess you could call it action sequences, but like, yeah, there was nothing that showed that he was like some kind of like a master tactician, like he's described as in the books, or,
Right.
a hardcore super soldier where he's able, I mean, yeah, we saw that he was able to take on a couple of elites at once, which is,
I mean,
I
that's pretty
guess
cool.
compared to a normal human trying to do that is, impossible. So I guess that's kind of neat. But I mean, yeah, that's all we've really seen. All of the rest of it has been like Master Chief whining about this and getting
Mhm.
angry about that, and it's just like, man, like this is such a drag to get through.
Yeah. It's I think you hit the nail on the head there with your comment though. Is this really feels like a second or third season,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know, they talk about all this stuff that people are, but we never see that. We have nothing to back that up. It's just, yeah. But I mean, too, with the stuff with the rubble and going on with Soren, what really sucks is I actually enjoyed Soren last episode.
I did too. Yeah,
And again,
he's like the one character I actually like.
but this episode, I'm like, there was nothing to me likable about him. It is just like, oh well, you know, his again, the all of a sudden the anger towards Kwan, and then the, oh, you're not going anywhere, and then, oh, now here's, you know, this magical money that Kwan has, and then, you know, like, oh, I'll pay you if you take me back there, you know, so I can fight. And he's like, all of a sudden, like, oh yeah, sure, whatever, whatever. But
Yeah, I'll risk my life to, or if anything, I'll just turn in your bounty, and so it's all good.
yeah,
I
it's
get
just,
paid. I get paid either way.
yeah. I mean, hopefully he does that. Hopefully, just gives the bounty.
Oh God, that would be. I hope he does. I hope he just kind of yeets Kwan out in an airlock or something like that.
Yeah,
That'd be, just Soren. You need to save this show.
but, and you're wrong, Heather. There has, and I think it was Heather. Sorry, maybe I'm calling out the wrong person. Uh, there has been a lot of action, a lot of fighting. It's all about who is the chief and his internal struggle on, you know, who is he, and what are all these crazy visions, and what is his purpose.
Such
Yeah,
action.
All that
so
So
much
fun.
action.
It's juicy.
All right. So, with that being wrapped up, I mean that's pretty much the episode. What a final verdicts on this one,
I'll go first.
Matt? You want to go first on this one? Yeah. Okay. So
I've been
last episode was like I think a 3 from you.
Yeah. So I'm gonna for third episode, I'm gonna start sounding like a broken record. It's a 3. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, I might have gone lower this episode if it wasn't for Jen Taylor. Just that her beautiful voice as Cortana, just it's calming, even though her what she was doing this episode was a little contradiction to kind of how she should be, in my opinion. But anyways, yeah, it was just the little B plots that they're in, the C plots, and all the little creepiness. It's still not a great show, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying week to week to separate my fandom of the games and the books from the show, but it's just getting so hard because it's supposed to be bringing people into this universe. This is supposed to be for a broader audience, but nothing in here other than the few skins that they were able to buy for DLC to put in the show. Nothing here is like anything Halo, right?
Yeah.
So
It's
anybody
just
that comes into the show going, "Hey, I like this weird, you know, space drama. I'm gonna go play the games." They're gonna be like, They're gonna be like the opposite of me. They'll be like, "Who the fuck is this John and Cortana?" And like, they're terrible. They're nothing like the people in the show.
you're right. Yeah, they're setting up a false expectation.
Yeah. So a 3.
All right.
Long-winded 3.
Heather, what about you?
I'm right there with Matt. Like last week, I was like, "Hey, I'm digging on this." I was like 6 area, like maybe a little bit more. Like
Right.
I was loving it.
You liked the
But
world building and all that.
I felt that this episode was just so much filler with nothing but soap opera vibes.
Mm-hmm.
And like I mean, I did like the Makee scenes. Like I mean, I deal with inept people all the time in my movies. I mean,
Me
Star
being
Wars
one of
is
them,
still
right?
beloved, right? Like that's the fabled one, right? Or the famous one, I mean. So like I'm fine with inept people to see something cool, and I thought that was pretty cool. And like you said, you got your pods from the game, and like it was fine. I felt like a lot of this episode dragged. I was all but clock watching for this episode to be done. I was not interested. I'm not in, like, there was a lot of questions. I'm like, but why in this whole episode? So I'm kind of with Matt. I'm kind of thinking a 3. Like it wasn't all bad, but it was mostly bad.
Okay. I'm gonna give it a 5. And the reason I'm giving it a 5 is because it again, this also had some pretty neat moments to it. Like specifically, I see what I might not like what what Cortana and Master Chief's relationship is kind of turning into. I get it for the Silver timeline. They're trying to create friction and drama and all that, and it kind of sucks. But yeah, hearing Jen Taylor voice Cortana, even though that it looked like the lip syncing was really, really off. So the CG was also not the greatest in this episode
Mhm.
either, with the actress. Or maybe not CG, but yeah, the lip syncing of the physical actress was not matching Jen Taylor's lips. Like they weren't her voice. I mean, it wasn't matching her voice. So that was kind of rough to watch because I felt like it was really noticeable. So it's stuff like that that's what's really dragging it down. But yeah, it's like Jen Taylor brought it up a couple points. The Makee stuff, even though the energy sword fingernail was kind of stupid, and the UNSC being painted as kind of like a fascistic sort of like bureaucratic, you know, just hellhole is kind of stupid.
Yeah.
Seeing the hunter, like everything that's been cool in this show so far has been just the Covenant. Like the Covenant have been pretty awesome
I
in
would
the
agree with
show.
that.
Pretty much like, like anytime the prophets are on screen and they're talking, it's pretty awesome.
Which
Anytime, like, even, Matt's favorite character is the pointing elite that draws a circle. Like, that's
some like that CGI has been pretty solid,
it's
and
not bad. Yeah.
it's again, it's unfortunate we don't. And that's the side that's starting to interest me more. Little less Makee, but more the Covenant side, because that's where you get a lot more of that lore rich, hopefully, stuff with the aliens. And
Right. It's
you
the
know
stuff that they kept accurate to both the games and the extended universe and
they
things like
keep
that.
they've made it a point, at least in the first and third episode here, a point to show the key ship in High Charity.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah,
It was so
so
cool to see like the whole city kind of sprawling out from the key ship in the middle of High Charity.
yeah,
And so like anytime we see a scene at High Charity or see some elites talking to each other or something like that, it's actually just kind of cool. And it makes me think, like this is the better part of the show is all the like I almost wish that they would just focus on that because a lot of the
mhm.
UNSC and the human side of things has been really boring and drama filled and it's just like a soap opera. But like the prophets aren't fighting each other, they're not fighting with elites on the sides, like Makee is kind of debating rather than trying to like be underhanded and argumentative about why she has to go look for this artifact. And she brings up like points to the prophets and the prophets kind of like think about it and like they're like,
Mhm.
okay, like yeah, you're right, like we should let you go do, like it's so much more cooperative. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, no shit, no, that's why they're winning, they actually work together.
Yeah. No,
uh,
it's just really unfortunate. Like at this point, it'd be nice if they just focus on Chief, less emotional Chief, but more badass Chief, and then the Covenant side. Forget everything else. Forget all the other little B and C plots they're starting everywhere. Just make it that.
yeah.
Um, but also, one thing that would be really interesting to see this side. We're already way past it if they were even going to put it in the show. Uh, it was just very interesting. Some of the political play. This is where political play could be fun. How truth, mercy, and regret came into power. That would have been really cool to see. But again, that's deep nerd book stuff.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, there we go, we got 2 3s and a 5. So that's kind of where we're sitting on this episode.
Can I change my rating?
You sure can. It is
I
your
get
rating.
Okay.
I give it 2 Spartan cheeks. Out of what I don't know, but
Yeah. We're gonna give it 5. I'm gonna give it 5 master cheeks.
there you go. 3 master cheeks for me.
Yep.
That should be our new rating going forward.
Yep. 5 Matt. Yep. Just 5 peaches. That's what we got. All right. Well, cool. I think that about settles it for this episode. For you, the dear listener, thank you very much for tuning into us. Be sure you go to our website and check out or go to our website, campfiregamingpodcast.com. Check out all of our other episodes and all of our other content there. There's a lot for you to sift through. While you're there, join our Discord, hang out with us, chat with us, game with us. We'd love to hear from you. If you're visiting us from YouTube, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe button. We'd love to get this pushed out to as many people as possible, so that everybody can listen to us rant about Halo stuff. And with that said, thank you, Heather and Matt, for joining me this episode, and we'll see you all next time around the campfire.